asking people, and I posed it everywhere I went, so what is your vision then? If non-racialism is not working for you, if the underpinning, the undergirding of the Constitution feels like a complete sellout, then what is your vision for the country? And what was so interesting to me, it was largely from most people, we got to go back to the beginning. Yeah. Everything from breaking it to going back to the beginning, to re-questioning. So it's not just a case of working out why none of our interventions on land have been effective or institutionalized correctly, or thinking through how black empowerment can be made to work for more people. It's a complete revise, go right back to the beginning. And I think that's why Julius Malema has been so incredibly successful as a politician in a very, very short space of time, because he surfaced this idea of an economic transformation, of a taking back and a recasting of almost everything we know. The lesser version of that is that whites must just keep quiet and not claim an equal citizenship. And that's the view underpinning a lot of the whiteness studies I've been reading, that this is the time for a resurgence of a black identity, ownership, and essentially a hegemony, that has never happened, especially in the private sector. And so I thought I should go and check whether how true was that. If all of white-owned resources, assets, income, wealth, property was redistributed, how far would it take us? And it wouldn't take us very far at all. What strikes me, and something that I would be most concerned about, is 2 to 3 million young unemployed people who look at our world as if through a glass. But what was very interesting was that it's the intelligentsia, the young black intelligentsia, which really feels like this is not its place. And in that sense, it is generational. And this was best put by Steve Tshwete's son, my Shlomo Tshwete, who said that it will often be the elders in the ANC who try and tame the militant or radical impulses of a new generation coming up. I look a lot in my book at the growth of a black middle class, and I consider myself an example of that. In a single generation, we jumped from working class or peasant to middle class. And it was one of the fastest acts of social mobility anywhere in the world, a single generation, and a very short time. And that's shown excellently by Joss Cooper in her Future Fact research. But we confound many certainties. So South Africa has had 4 presidents in 22 years, which is absolutely unusual in post-colonial sub-Saharan Africa. And it is because we're in the democratic wave, but it is a large, quick and a quick changeover. And I think that's because we are very democratically engaged people. And if you look at the hashtag Zuma must fall, I know much criticized for being a white campaign. Actually, I went on the march, and that's not true. Joss also tells me that in her research that's coming out, the issue that's uniting black and white middle class people more than any other is an opposition to e-tolls. So I think we have generally patriotic, certainly, but very clear distinction made between patriotism to your country and a great questioning of and holding a governing party to account, which I think is lovely, that we confound the pattern, the expected pattern of how you expect a new middle class to act. Whiteness studies are, for me, where I learned at Wits, they've come to displace in political studies the studies of non-racialism. And in a very small nutshell, it says that it believes that white power continues to control economic, political, cultural, and really holds sway over all parts of society, that our entire experience is still dominated by this idea of whiteness, white privilege, and at its other end, its furthest end, white supremacy. And at a similar looking discussion at WITS, most people in the room agreed that we live in a time of white supremacy.